Okay, so this teaching is we're starting a new Chumash, Devarim, Deuteronomy, and this teaching is what we call a Rashi Sicha, where you take one verse and one Rashi, and every single word of the Rashi is we're going to dissect and ask questions about, and we're going to ask many, many questions, and we're going to have one answer that's going to tie everything together. So the first thing we want to do is we want to look at what is this? First, we're going to want to get a little bit of background information, what's going on here, what's happening in this parsha. We'll read the pasuk, we'll read the Rashi, and then we'll ask all of our questions. So basically, in Chumash Devarim, what's unique about this Chumash is that this is 37 days before Moshe Rabbeinu passes away, and this is his last speech to the Jewish people, and he's reminding them of everything that happened. Also, you have to realize that this is, 40 years after they left Egypt. So the people that there have been many more babies born, many more people that were children now have grown up. So he's kind of reviewing the history and telling them where they're coming from, where they're going to, what their mission is, the tools that they have to do what they need to do, etc. Okay, so here we go. This is the Parak Aleph, the first chapter of Deuteronomy, verse 6. And it says, Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Jews, Hashem Elokeinu diber eleinu b'chorev, lemor rav lachem shaves bahar hazeh. Hashem spoke to us at Mount Sinai, saying, it's too much for you to sit by this mountain. It's time to move on. Okay, now, up until learning this teaching, I always thought the Jews received the Torah at Mount Sinai and then they moved on. But actually, the Jews were around Mount Sinai for almost an entire year before they continued traveling. And what does Rashi say about the words Rav lachem shaves? It's too much for you to sit here. It's too much for you to be by this mountain. Kipshutai. Kipshutai means just as pshat. Pshat is just the most simple, basic interpretation. So the most simple, basic interpretation is it's too much. You've been here too long. It's time for you to move on. That's the simple interpretation. But Rashi is not satisfied with that. And he continues and he says, V'yesh mikra acher. There's another interpretation. There's a medrash interpretation. Hirba lachem gdula v'schar. Hashem gave you a lot of greatness and reward. Al yeshivaschem bahar hazeh, because you sat around this mountain. Asisem mishkan, you made a tabernacle. Menorah, a menorah, kalim, vessels. Kibaltem Torah, you received the Torah. Minisem lachem Sanhedrin, you appointed for yourself the Sanhedrin, who are the judges. Sarei alafim v'sarei meis, officers of thousands, officers of hundreds. This is the Rashi. And we're going to literally take apart every single word. So first of all, we know that Rashi's goal is to explain to us the most simple, basic interpretation of the verse. So what is bothering Rashi? What is bothering Rashi that he's not satisfied with just the simple interpretation, which is, guys, you sat around here for too long, time to move on. You said so if we go, okay, question number one, why does Rashi bring the medrash? Why is he bringing a medrash interpretation? Why is he not satisfied with a simple interpretation that Rav means a lot or too much? You sat here a lot, you sat here too much, time to move on. Why is that not enough? So the first thing that's troubling Rashi is, if you want to say it's enough, move on. What's the Hebrew word for enough? Die. So the pasuk should say, die. It's enough. If that's what it means, you said you're enough, then the pasuk should say die. But it doesn't say die. It says Rav. Rav means a lot. So if you want to say enough, you see, when you have a lot, sometimes it's enough. Right. But if you want to say enough, then say enough. Why are you saying a lot? So therefore, it bothers Rashi, at least on the surface, bothers Rashi that it says Rav and not die. Therefore, he has to come and bring a further interpretation. But now we could ask about this. There's another place in the Torah where it says Rav and it means die. It says a lot and it means enough. And Rashi doesn't come and bring another medrash interpretation. When do we see this? When the Egyptians are being punished with the 10 plagues. One of the plagues was hail. And the hail made a lot of noise. And Paro calls Moses and he says, it's enough. He says, Rav. The noise is Rav. It's too much. And over there, Rav means die. It's enough. And over there, Rashi is fine with that. So we already have a precedent where Rav means enough. And the term Rav is used and not die. And Rashi is fine with it. Here, all of a sudden, Rashi is not satisfied. And he's bringing another whole long interpretation, a whole big medrash, because something is bothering him. Okay. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu is recounting what happened at Mount Sinai, because not all the people that are born right now were actually there physically, right? So he's saying, what's Moshe saying? He's bringing examples of the greatness that happened at Mount Sinai. You were sitting there for too long, it's time to move. What were the great, welcome. What are the great things that happened at Mount Sinai? And it lists 3 things. Number 1, the Mishkan. You built the Mishkan. For some reason in my head, like building the Mishkan was like somewhere else. But guess what? It actually happened there. Welcome, Kami. No, we're just starting.
The wrong address. I was 20 minutes away.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know this when I.
Look at the beautiful scenery. We're so happy you're here. Okay. So Mount Sinai, the great things happen at Mount Sinai is number 1, the Mishkan, the tabernacle was built. Number 2, we received the Torah. And number 3, we appointed Sanhedrin. So if I was to ask you, what do you think was the greatest thing that happened at Mount Sinai? What is the greatest thing that happened? You tell me.
Torah.
Okay, so what about the Torah? Kabbalat Torah. Okay, receiving the Torah. So that's one of the, so very, who said that? Amazing. The most incredible, great thing that happened at Mount Sinai is that Hashem revealed himself. So why doesn't Rashi, if he wants to tell us how great the greatness of being at this mountain, and eventually we had to go, but if you want to describe the greatness of Mount Sinai, speak about the revelation that happened, that God revealed himself. That never, ever happened again. That Hashem should reveal himself to the Jewish people, and the thunder and the lightning and the shofar and the unbelievable revelation. Why isn't that part of the greatness that Rashi should bring down when describing the greatness of Har Sinai? Second of all, if you're just talking about receiving the Torah, guess what? What's so unique about that? Yes, we received the Torah at Mount Sinai, but already Adam Harishon, he was already got instructions about the Torah. We have Noach and the Noachide laws. Already before the Torah was given, Hashem already told the righteous people different things about the Torah, and the Torah was already being practiced, especially when we have Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, right? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They were already practicing the Torah before the Torah was given. So you want something that's great and unique about the giving of the Torah, great and unique about Mount Sinai, you're just talking about receiving the Torah. Guess what? There were people that received many parts of the Torah way before the Torah was given. And then this third great thing that we said about the Sanhedrin, about appointing leaders and to give us instruction. What's so unique and great about that? One of the Noahide laws is to appoint judges, and we had the Sanhedrin in Egypt. There's a Canaan where the Sanhedrin became the Sanhedrin. We have two questions. Number one, when we're talking about the greatness at Mount Sinai, why don't we mention the revelation? Why are we just speaking about receiving the Torah? And number two, receiving the Torah and the appointing the judges, appointing the Sanhedrin, those don't seem so unique. So wouldn't you choose unique things rather than just things that already happened before, if you're talking about the greatness of Mount Sinai? So that was question number two. Why does Rashi bring these examples for greatness? And now, number three, there are 6 differences. You know those games where you have 2 pictures, you have to find the 6 differences between them? There are 6 differences between Rashi and another commentator called the Sifri. And usually Rashi takes his commentary from the Sifri. In this case, he does not. He takes it from the Medrash. He copies the Medrash version, not the Sifri version. And because the Medrash version is different than the Sifri version in various ways, we're going to see what those differences are. And for every single difference, there's going to be a reason. So the first nuance that we have to question and delve into is, okay, you want to bring me 3 examples of the greatness that happened at Mount Sinai, Mishkan, receiving the Torah, and Sanhedrin? That's great, but it's out of order. Rashi brings it in this order. Sifri says no. Sifri says first the Torah was given, then we had Sanhedrin were appointed. Let's just remind ourselves what happened. The Torah was given. Then the Jews had a million questions. So Moshe would stand all day to answer the questions of the Jewish people. Yisro, his father-in-law, gave him advice. He said, no, this is not going to work. You're exhausted. You should appoint leaders over thousands, appoint leaders over hundreds, appoint leaders over 50, appoint leaders over 10. So if an individual has a question, let him go to the leader over 10. Maybe that leader can help him. If that leader can't help him, he should go to the leader that's appointed over 50 people. If he can't help, then he'll go to the leader that's appointed over 100 people. If he can't help, he'll go to the leader appointed over 1,000 people. If that leader can't help or can't answer his question, then go stand in line and ask Moshe Rabbeinu. So that all happened after the giving of the Torah. So the order of events is first Torah, then appointing the Sanhedrin, and then the Mishkan, the tabernacle. That came last. So why is Rashi, when he mentioned the great things that happened at Mount Sinai, why is he mentioning Mishkan first? So you see, in this chart, you have, according to Rashi, A, Mishkan, Torah, Sanhedrin. According to Sifri, it's Torah, Sanhedrin, Mishkan. So the Mishkan is in bold because the order is different. B, according to Rashi, when speaking about the Mishkan, Rashi says Mishkan, menorah, and the vessels. Sifri says Mishkan and the vessels. Our question is, why is Rashi highlighting the menorah? Sifri doesn't mention the menorah. There are many things, incredible things that were part of the Mishkan. Why single out the menorah? Okay, now I lost my place. Okay, number 3. In Rashi, it says leaders of thousands and leaders of hundreds. It does not mention leaders of 50 and leaders of 10. In the Sifri, it mentions all of them. In the Sifri, it says leaders of thousands and leaders of hundreds and leaders of 50 and leaders of 10. So our question is, why does Rashi omit leaders of 50 and leaders of 10? D, fourth difference. In the Rashi, when Rashi is explaining this word Rav, which means a lot, Rashi uses two terminologies. Rav lachem, it's a lot for you. It's a lot for you. He says greatness and reward. Sifri only speaks about reward. So basically, just to go back, we have this term in the verse, the Jewish people, you were at Mount Sinai for too long, move on. That's the simple explanation. Rashi says it doesn't mean that you were there for too long, but rather it means that you got a lot by being there. You got a lot of greatness and you got a lot of reward. Rashi uses both words, greatness and reward, while Sifri only uses reward. 5. According to Rashi, it says, he has given you much greatness and reward for the stay at this mountain. Because you stayed around this mountain, therefore, you got a lot of greatness and reward. According to Sifri, he says, the stay at the mountain is your reward. Just by staying there and in that holy place, that in itself is a reward. Rashi says, because you stayed there, it's a reward and greatness. Sifri just says, staying there was your reward. And the last difference is that when we're talking about the Sanhedrin, appointing Sanhedrin, Rashi says, you appointed by yourselves, you appointed the Sanhedrin, the leaders, and according to Sifri, it says that God appointed. So before we go anywhere, it's just so incredible that if you read back the Rashi, every single detail, every single word is perfect. We basically touched upon every word of this Rashi, and we found differences between Rashi and Sifri, and every single difference is all coming together to prove one point. Okay. And what is the $1 million question? What's really bothering Rashi is not that it says, Rav lachem, it's a lot for you to be here, and not die, that it's enough. That's not really what's bothering Rashi. Because as we said, there's another case. You have another case where it says Rav a lot, and it means enough. But what's really bothering Rashi is, how can you say that being in this holy, holy place where God revealed himself and gave us the Torah, that it's too much? How could it be that being in a holy place is too much and that you have to move on? So you're going to answer, try to think of an answer. How could it be if you're, Yom Kippur, right? The holiest day of the year, right? Would anyone say, oh, it's the feelings that you have on Yom Kippur? You feel connected, you feel one with God, you feel like, you'll never do anything wrong again, right? Would anyone ever say that feeling that you have in Yom Kippur, it's too much? Like if I had it on a regular Monday on August 5th, if I had that feeling that I had in Yom Kippur, it's too much, right? But in this case, yes, it was too much. The unbelievable feeling of being so close to God, it was too much. So how could you say it's too much? How could you say it's too much?
What would have joined in the Shema, and it wouldn't be a book anymore. They had to stay on this world, not.
Okay, so excellent. So what you're saying is that being at Mount Sinai forever, that's too much. You have to move on at some point, because the point of being on this earth is not to just bask in the glory of revelation and just, 365 days a year, just have Yom Kippur. The point is, right, the point is to live in this world, to live in this world and to elevate this world. So being at Mount Sinai for almost a year, it's becoming too much. Why? Because you have to remember your goal. What was the goal? The goal was that the Jewish people should go into the land of Israel. So if we just stay at Mount Sinai, yes, it's like, it's amazing. Like just want to stay in Kara's house. It's beautiful, who wants to go home and do laundry, We'll just stay here. Every morning. Yeah. Let's just stay here forever,
You don't want to go vacation. You just live in there.
Right? So, but you have to remember your goal. If the goal is to get to Israel, then it comes a point where even the most holy environment is too much because you're forgetting your mission. The mission is to go into the land of Israel and to work the land and to live, to live like a Jew, not just to be be in the heavens, be in the sky, be in the clouds, and be connected. No, but to live in this world and to work and to elevate the physical, and that could only happen once the Jews enter Israel. Okay, but
maybe because they came out fermented Tuma, Mother Tuma, and go to such a holy place, it was too much for them. Imagine you Baal Tshuva, you be stopping, you go all the way up. It's too much. Maybe that's what Rashi looking, the people. Maybe for them it's too much.
Okay,
it's too much for me.
So that's a very good, that's a interesting way to look at it. So therefore, maybe because they're coming from Egypt, coming from an impure place, coming from a low level, maybe that's why they needed almost a year. They not maybe, but that is why they actually needed almost a year to prepare themselves to go into the land. It wasn't just a 24-hour event or a 1 hour event. It was a process. It was a preparation process. First of all, they prepared. We count 49 days of the Omer. They prepared to receive the Torah, and even once they received the Torah, it took them time. I always thought, they got the Torah and they moved on. No, they actually sat there for almost a year. They got the Torah on Vav Sivan, and they left Chaf Iyar. So it's almost a year that they actually sat there. It took time for them to absorb and to prepare, to absorb the revelation, to absorb everything, and to prepare to actually go into the land. It wasn't.
So it's like what we said.
Automatic.
Rashi said, enough. You learned enough. Now move to life.
Move to life. So now the question is, okay. So we said like this. We said, what's the problem? It's time to move on. Why is it time to move on? Because you have the tools now. You sat here long enough. Now you have to move on to your goal to go to Israel. But now we're going to go back to the same question. The question is, it's not our fault that we are still here. God, you are the one who tells us when we have to move. The Jews didn't just move whenever they felt like it, but rather they waited for the cloud. There was a special cloud that ascended. There was the Mishkan. They had the Mishkan. They had the cloud. The cloud would actually change shape. The cloud was the GPS. Perfect. So the cloud would come off of would lift itself up off of the Mishkan, and it would change shape, and it would actually lead them. It would actually lead them. So until the cloud is moving, we're not moving. We're waiting for God to tell us when to move. So don't blame us for hanging around.
They put their whole, they didn't do their own thing. They followed wherever Hashem wanted. So they must have been on a really high level.
So obviously we're on a very high level, but don't come and say, when I say, it's too much candy, right? The implication is you did something wrong. If I'm talking to my child, right? You ate too much candy. You went over the limit. But don't tell me I went over the limit of being in this basking in the glory. If you're the one, I'm waiting for you to tell me it's time. If I'm waiting for you to tell me that it's time to go. Sometimes your child wants to pour themselves a drink. Tell me when to stop. Tell me when to stop, right? So because otherwise it's all over the counter. So we're waiting for God. Tell us when to go. Tell us when to move on. You didn't tell us to move on, so don't come to me with a complaint and say why are you still hanging around here? So now therefore this is what's really bothering Rashi. What's bothering Rashi is the verse says the plain interpretation is it's too much. You've been here too long. It's too much. Move on. But Rashi, so that's a simple interpretation. But Rashi says, no, we need another interpretation to help this. We can't suffice with this because it's not their fault that they're here too long. This word it uses the word rav, not die. Doesn't say die. Doesn't say it's enough. It uses the word rav. So we have to come to a second explanation that rav means a lot, that you gained a lot of greatness and you gained a lot of reward by spending time here. Rashi has to use the Medrash interpretation because what's bothering him is you can't blame the Jews for staying here if the God never commanded them to move on. So that's why Rashi comes and brings a Medrash interpretation. Usually Rashi's goal is not to bring you every beautiful Medrash. What's a Medrash? A Medrash comes to embellish the story, to give you more details, to give you more color, to give you more background. That's not Rashi's job. He's only going to bring the Medrash if it's necessary. Guess what? The Medrash is necessary because otherwise we're left with the question, don't blame us for hanging out here. You didn't tell us to move. We're waiting for you to call the shots, to lead us. So obviously Rashi says, no, there's something more. The interpretation is that we gained a lot of greatness and reward because we spent time around this mountain. Every morning when they woke up, they may not have seen beautiful water, but what they did see was this mountain of God, where God revealed himself to them, and they remembered. They remembered what happened a few days, weeks, or months ago, and they were in this special environment.
You know by the Devarim and how they were punished? Because they
Excellent.
So there was like well, there they were blamed, but they did, and it was coming from the same place. But
So
they didn't want to move on.
they didn't want to move on. That was the
But
problem
here
with
they're
Morocco.
not being blamed, so obviously it's not their fault.
You can use the same Russell.
So at this point, they should have had the tools. They should have had the tools to move on. God wanted them to move on to Eretz Yisrael, and they would have done that. But there was a problem. The problem was the Meraglim, the spies, and the spies showed that there was some kind of deficiency. There was some kind of deficiency that they were not, I don't know, emotionally, spiritually interested, ready to go into the land, and that held them back. And therefore, the reward and the greatness, it did affect the reward that was how they were supposed to go into the land and how they ended up going into the land 40 years later. There was a difference, and it was tainted by the sin of the Meraglim, because the Meraglim, when they spied out the land, they said, oh, we can't go. So on the surface, it seems that they said, oh, the other nations are stronger than us, and they're more powerful than us. But really, the Hasidic interpretation is that they didn't want to go because they want to just bask in the revelation and not have to go deal with a physical material world. But that was, so that if not for that, we would have gone straight in. As a matter of fact, Rashi tells us that Hashem was so eager for the Jews to go into Eretz Yisrael that the distance from Har Sinai to go into the land of Israel was a distance of 11 days. But Rashi proves that distance of 11 days, God sped up the way, that it should only take them 3 days. It actually only took them 3 days to get from Har Sinai to the entry place to get into the land of Israel. It's just that there were two obstacles in the way that prolonged that process. They ended up staying in one place for 30 days because they had a desire for meat. And then God said, I'm going to give you meat until it comes out of it, until it's too much, until it comes out of your nose. So they were stuck in one place for 30 days dealing with the meat. And they were stuck in another place for 7 days when Miriam said Lashon Hara, and they waited for her for 7 days. Rashi brings the whole calculation. So basically, if you take away 30 days plus 7 days, you will see that you will see that it really only took them 3 days to make the distance of 11 days. The whole calculation is in the second Rashi of this parsha. So Hashem really wanted to speed up the process, that a journey of 11 days should only take them 3 days to enter Eretz Yisrael. That's what Hashem had in mind for us.
Thousands, hundreds.
600,000.
The 600,000 left Egypt, and that was only the men between the ages of 20 to 60. The count of 600,000
Right.
was the men between the ages of 20 to 60. So really there was a lot, it was millions of people.
This is a very big number in describing how many we are, like 60, 600, 6,000, 600,000, 6 million. Like
Wow.
Holocaust was 6
Wow, very interesting.
Never thought about that.
And that's why it's the Samach, and that's why when we bench left, it's the Samach.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't think
So
about
interesting.
that.
But the Star of David has also 6.
6
yeah.
points.
Oh, 6 points. Wow.
Yeah.
Never thought about that.
Wow.
And how many die? Like 600. So we were millions, but 600,000 people died in the desert.
No, 600. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
right, because they couldn't go in.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was millions. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so going back to our original question. God, how can you complain that it's our fault that we stayed here too long? Because really it was your doing. So because you didn't lead us sooner. So we're saying that we got greatness, and we got lots of greatness, and we got lots of reward for staying around Mount Sinai. And so what is this greatness, and what is this reward that we got? Specifically, the 3 things that Rashi says, Mishkan, Torah, and Sanhedrin, specifically in this order, is what we got. And why? Where are we headed? What's the view of Rashi? That the whole goal of spending this time at Mount Sinai wasn't just for a vacation. It wasn't just for to take pleasure in the glory of God. There was a purpose here. The purpose was to prepare ourselves to enter the land of Israel. And therefore, when talking about the greatness that happened at Mount Sinai, it all has to be things that prepare us to enter the land of Israel, a land where once we get there, we're not going to have all the revelations. So to be able to keep us as a holy nation, that we should remember who we are. We should remember our identity. Even once we get into Eretz Yisrael, into the land of Israel, that is what makes being around the mountain great. Okay, I'm just thinking of that Rashi. I really want to take a second and go to Chabad.org and find that Rashi.
Which Rashi are you talking about?
I think it's the second. I think it's the second Rashi that proves. Oh, it says in the second verse. In the second verse of Parashas Devarim, it says, Achad asar yain mechayrev derech har seir ad Kadesh Barnea. It is 11 days journey from Horev by way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea. I'm reading Rashi. Moses said to them, see what you caused. There is no shorter route from Horev, which is Mount Sinai, to Kadesh Barnea than the way through Mount Seir. And even that is a journey of 11 days. But you traversed it in 3 days. For they traveled from Horev on the 20th of Iyar, as it is said, and it came to pass in the 2nd year in the 2nd month, on the 20th of the month, the children of Israel traveled. And on the 29th of Sivan, they sent out the spies from Kadesh Barnea. Okay, so they left on the 20th of Iyar, and on the 29th of Sivan is when they actually were at the when they were so close to actually enter Eretz Yisrael. They sent out the spies on the 29th of Sivan. So 29 plus 10, right, is 39. So it's 39 days. The 39 days from when they left Har Sinai until they came to the place where they sent the spies. So it's here it says it's an interval of 40 days. I guess if you count full days, it's 40 days, an interval of 40 days. Subtract from them 30 days that they spent at Kivros HaTaiva, where they ate the meat a month of days, and the 7 days that they spent at Chatzeros for Miriam to be confined as a mitzvah, because she had saras. We find, so that's 30 plus 7. So therefore, we find that this entire journey from Chorev to Kadesh Barnea took only 3 days. Okay, it wasn't clear in my head, so I had to stop. Sorry. And to such an extent, the Shekhinah exerted itself to hasten your arrival to the land of Canaan. But because you sinned, he made you travel around Mount Seir for 40 years. So basically, it really was a journey of 11 days. God made it happen in 3 days without those 2 stops, because he wanted them to enter Eretz Yisrael so badly. But then, because of the Meraglim, it ended up that they had to stay in the desert for 40 years. Yeah.
How come 11 days? I feel like in my head it seems so much closer from Sinai to go to Israel. It doesn't seem like it should be that long to walk.
Okay, but maybe it's because they're traveling with all their children, and you're getting so many.
The Meraglim were traveling.
Oh, no.
That's the thing. That's why 11 days for the Meraglim.
No. The 11 days is for all the
got
Jewish
it.
people
Got it,
to
okay.
get with all their
So where the
babies and all their
Meraglim-
packages and all their animals
Makes sense.
to
That's why I want to get some children now.
millions of people to get
Right.
to the end to the entry point to enter Israel.
No, I know they will. But
Yeah.
still, that's a long distance to cover.
So where were they?
Just
40
it's a couple of miles.
So they were just going around. They were just going around. Yeah, they weren't really. Yeah. It wasn't so much. Also, in some places they were there for many years. You know, some stations for many years. So, but they basically, it wasn't that they were like getting closer and closer. It was just going from place to place. There was obviously a mission in each place that they were. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we're going back to the 3 parts.
Say a great joke. You want-
Sure. Absolutely.
It's really hilarious. In the whole Middle Eastern region, they have oil in every country but Israel to sell, So the Jews are asking, so why are we not getting oil? We could be easier life for us. Right?
Yeah.
He said, it's your fault. You were wandering for 40 years, and you said, this smells, every year. Bad smell. So you follow the road with no smells.
Yeah.
Just a funny.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. So there are 3 parts. There are 3 parts of 3 steps, 3 elements that we need in order to be prepared to enter the land of Israel. And it's an order of priority. Number 1, Mishkan. The first thing that we need, the most important thing is that we need God to rest amongst us. Building the Mishkan was a place. Once we had the tabernacle, that was a place on this physical earth where God could dwell amongst us. So the first ingredient for us to be a holy nation, and to be able that even when we're in Israel, to always remember the revelation and to be connected, number 1 is Mishkan, to build a tabernacle. That was the greatest thing that we accomplished at Mount Sinai, is because God says that you have to be holy because I am holy and I want to dwell amongst you. So we're a holy nation because God is holy and is dwelling amongst us, and therefore we must be holy. So that is the first most amazing thing that happened at Mount Sinai. It's not the revelation. It's not that God revealed himself to us at Mount Sinai, which makes Mount Sinai being the most greatest place, Because when God revealed himself, it was very temporary. It was a lot of noise, but the revelation came from God. We did nothing. It came from above. As a matter of fact, there's a medrash that says that God held a mountain over us and said, the reason why I created this world is for you to accept the Torah. So if you accept the Torah, great. If not, I'm going to take this mountain and I'm going to put it on top of you and you're all going to die here. This will be your burial place because there is no point of the world without you accepting the Torah. That's just on the surface. The Hasidic interpretation is that God showered us with so much light that we couldn't say no. It's like a guy takes a girl on a date and he does so much for her. Every time, dinner and jewelry and flowers and chocolate. Oh, will you marry me? How could I say no? You're so good to me, right? So it's coming. It's an outside influence. It's outside influence. God is basically forcing us by doing such good things for us. That basically is forcing us to accept the Torah. But we didn't change. We did nothing.
The Mishnah is from us.
We put Hashem into us.
Yes, excellent.
עשו לי משכן ושכנתי
So
בתוכם.
therefore, Mishkan, yes, you're 100% right. Mishkan, when we build for Hashem a sanctuary, and every single one of us is a sanctuary, when we allow God inside of our lives, and when we're willing to change, and when the Torah has an impact on us, yes, that's a preparation for going into Eretz Yisrael.
So now, going to Mashiach, which is going to happen any minute, right?
Absolutely.
So these are one of the things we need. We need to have a Mishkan in our hearts.
Yes,
So when
yes,
the next
God
day
said
we
that,
find
he said.
yes.
עשו לי- God said that, עשו לי משכן ושכנתי בתוכם.
Betocham. Vasuli Mishkan, make for me a sanctuary, and should say, and I will dwell in it.
Exactly.
V'shachanti besocho. It doesn't say v'shachanti besocho. V'shachanti besocham. I will dwell inside of each and every one of us. So we have to make our homes into a tabernacle, into a sanctuary for God. We have to make our hearts into a sanctuary for God. How do we do this? By learning Torah in our homes, by hachnasat orchim, by inviting guests into our homes. That's how we make our home into a dwelling place for God. And we have to make our hearts into a dwelling place for God. But that's all our work. That's all our work. That's why the greatness of Mount Sinai isn't the revelation of God, because that didn't take any work from us. What's the greatness of Mount Sinai is that we did something, that we built a sanctuary. And that's why Rashi chooses specifically the Mishkan as number one. Number one thing is you make a resting place for God inside of your heart, inside of your life. Number two is receiving the Torah, not the revelation. Receiving the Torah. Receiving the Torah means that you take the Torah and you're going to bring it into your daily life. It's going to affect your daily life. And that's number two of the greatness of Mount Sinai. Not that God revealed it, but that we accepted it. It's us. It's our work. And number three, I could accept the Torah, but then I might not know, I might have questions. I might not understand everything. So therefore, the part number three is that we have to have leaders or mentors. We have to appoint for ourselves leaders and mentors. It says it also in Pirkei Avot, Aseh lecha Rav, right? The same word, Rav. Make for yourself a mentor so that when you have questions in Torah or when you need guidance, to have who to turn to be able to teach you how to stay on the right track. So what is the greatness of Mount Sinai? 3-point plan. 3-point plan. The greatness, it wasn't the revelation. It was the fact that we, number one, Mishkan, and in this order. And that's why Rashi, that's in the order. It's not in the order of what happened first. It's in the order of what's most important to prepare ourselves to enter the land. Number one, Mishkan. Number two, receiving the Torah. Number three, to appoint a Sanhedrin, to appoint leaders to help us and to guide us. Okay, now we're up to the second page. We finished the first page. We have just a little bit more. Okay. Now the fact that Rashi uses both terminologies, greatness and reward, and not just suffice with reward like Sifri. The reason is because to enter the land of Israel, there are two elements. Element number one is actually entering the land. Element number two is the manner of entry. How are they going to enter the land? So we have to be in a position of greatness, in a position of holiness. We have to work on ourselves and be great and holy in order to actually enter the land. And when we're in a position of greatness and holiness to enter the land, how are we going to enter the land? What's going to be the manner of how we're going to enter the land? And how it was supposed to be and how it would have been if not for the sin of the Meraglim? We would have entered the land in a way that there would have been no objection, no weapons, and no war. The original plan of how we were supposed to enter the land was that no one would object to us, no weapons, and no war. And that would have been the reward. That's why Rashi has two words, greatness and reward. If we would have been on the right level of greatness and holiness to enter the land, we would have received a reward that we would have entered without a war, without weapons, without any objection. But because we weren't 100% great, we weren't 100% holy, because the proof is that the sin of the Meraglim, that we didn't get it, we didn't 100% get it, get our mission, which is that we have to enter the land and work with the physical, and we wanted to just stay and bask in the spiritual, so that we weren't 100% in the right place. Therefore, we didn't merit that the entry into the land should be without objection, without weapons, and without war, and we had to go fight our enemies to enter the land. But the ideal situation is that when we are who we are supposed to be, we shouldn't need any war, we shouldn't need any weapons, and we shouldn't have any objections, and the whole world should recognize that the land is our land. Okay. And also, there are two elements of establishing the Sanhedrin. There are two parts. It was God's command that we should appoint Sanhedrin, and then there was Moshe actually doing it. So therefore, when in Rashi focuses on the element that Moshe appointed the people, appointed the leaders, versus God appointing, because Rashi's goal is to prove that it was our efforts, our work, our changing, our becoming holy, our efforts, and therefore in Rashi he says that Moshe appointed, that it was man-made, done by man to appoint the leaders, versus Sifri, who holds that it was God who appointed it. That it was, so we're just like answering those questions of why we have the difference that Sifri says that God appointed, while Rashi says that Moshe appointed, because we're focusing on the work of the human beings down here versus God just giving us rewards. We're focusing on our work, our efforts to prepare ourselves to enter the land. Okay, now comes the wine of Torah. The wine of Torah is like the secrets of Torah. The most deepest part of this lesson is, and we see a hint to it in Rashi. The Dibur HaMatchil, what Rashi comes to, when Rashi has an issue with something in the pasuk, he highlights which words he has issue with, and that becomes the heading of the Rashi. So Rashi, when it speaks about, when in the heading, Rashi doesn't use the word mountain. He just asking on the word Rav lachem sheves. It's too much for you to be here. Or as we explained, the second interpretation is that you got a lot of greatness from sitting here. But the word mountain he doesn't use. Only in the Agada, only in the Medrash, when Rashi speaks about the Medrash, you have this phrase that uses the word mountain, and the significance is Rav lachem sheves bahar hazeh. From the fact that he lengthens it in the Medrash, the lesson is that whatever level you might be, it might be the most spiritual, incredible level. You may be amazing, righteous person, but you can't sit at the same mountain. You can't sit at the same level forever. You have to move on. You have to climb higher. You can't say, oh, status quo. I'm wonderful. I'm great. I pray. I learn. I'm a religious Jew. I do everything I have to do. I'm perfect. I'm fine. I'm very happy where I am. I'm sitting by this mountain. I'm a wonderful person. Leave me alone. But no, you cannot sit at the same mountain for too long. Our job is always to climb higher. Always climb higher. Always reach for more. You could never be satisfied with the mountain that you're at. You always have to climb higher. That's one incredible lesson.
That's why by this one said that, mentioned, that in the end aliyah yesh yerida.
Right, because if you're not climbing, then you're slipping. You always had a mountain climber. We have the picture of the mountain climber on the flyer. A mountain climber, if he's not climbing higher, he's automatically slipping lower. You have to constantly strive to be, to do more. You might have to delegate, to be able to do more, but you have to always, ma'alim b'kodesh. You always have to go higher. You can't stay satisfied with, even it might be wonderful. Mount Sinai, greatest revelations. What could be better than this? But you always have to, ma'alim b'kodesh, you always have to progress and move higher. That's one main lesson. Okay. And now, a very interesting thing. The difference between the Jewish people and the rest of the nations of the world. For the Jewish people, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? What comes first? Our identity, our holiness, our connection, or the land? What comes first?
It says you wrote about it. So it's cheating to answer.
Okay, you could answer.
The
connection.
The connection.
Yeah, so for a Jew,
Right.
first you have to be holy. First you have to know who you are. First you have to be connected to God. And when you are, then automatically the land is yours. Because God chose two things. God chose Israel from all the other lands to be his special land. And God chose the Jewish people from all the people to be his special people. So when we realize and when we act as the special people, as the chosen nation, then automatically God says the chosen people should get the chosen land. It's a no-brainer. So when we are true to who we are, when we're in touch with our identity, then the land is ours. And it becomes obvious to all the other nations of the world that the land is ours, and then they don't contest it. The other nations of the world, first they have a land, and then they become a people. What makes anyone anything? What makes you French? What makes you American? What makes you English? First it's your land. First there's the land, and then you become a people. But the Jewish people first were a people, and when we're in touch with who we are, then the land is automatically ours.
Very interesting thing.
Yeah.
I also think it's interesting with what you were saying before about always going higher.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that message could be taken the wrong way depending on what's going on in your life.
Mhm.
Like, I'm more of a perfectionist, so it's not like it's the best message. But if you realize who you are and you realize what you're capable of, then it's less of like, well, I'm never there, but I could be there. That makes sense.
100%. So I'll tell you what, we recently started a new tiny class, and I can tell you the background of what happened. My sister Racheli, she worked for Friendship Circle for many years, and she developed incredible skills with marketing. And now she helps shluchim with marketing. That's one of the things that she does. And she's my sister, but I'm biased. But she's really good at it. And every few weeks she sends an email. And when she sends the email, I stop everything and I read it. I'm like so intrigued. So the title of the email is "You're Selfish." So of course I open it and I read it. And basically, I feel like finding it and reading it. But basically she says, should I do that?
Yeah.
Okay. She gets the credit. Her name is Racheli Edelcup. Let me see if I can find it quickly.
You were saying about that's it. My grandfather.
Really?
I was enjoying my mother's grandfather.
Wow, amazing.
It's always heartwarming to hear the name. The rabbi she mentioned.
He's very kind.
Okay.
I wish I remember all the book, but I studied all the books. All books,
Okay, so I typed into my email, you're selfish, and the email came right up. Okay, so I'm not reading the whole thing, I'm just reading part of it. Okay, she tells you, she's in the middle of writing, she says, if you've ever struggled to show up with marketing, listen up. Ready? Marketing is not about you. It's not about you showing off how great you and your organization are. If that was true, it would make perfect sense only to post something or email something when you know it's gold. Imagine an influencer posting a mediocre breakfast picture in bad lighting. That's a terrible idea, since the point of her online presence is to show you how perfect she is. But back to us. If you only post when you feel like your content is perfect enough, you are being selfish. Veer, I said it. You have the ability to inspire, educate, and create a community of people rallying around your cause. So what if someone thinks it's not earth-shattering perfection? Here's the test. If your post can inspire one person, help one person, educate one person, turn one person into a donor or volunteer, then you got to be crazy not to show up. Okay, I should continue reading. Okay, I think I got the point. The point is that what does it mean to not stay in, you're in a great place. You're in a great place. But Suri, if you would just stay with makeup, that was great. That was great. It was wonderful. But you weren't satisfied. You had more potential to develop more things, to color palette, and to help people yeah, plug. Yes, someone that I know really wants to come to you. But anyway, the point is that we have so much more that we could share with the world. And if we say, I have to wait for perfect in order to show up, that we can't. We have to say, look, I'll do whatever I can. Look, I could have said, I can't do another class. I have a baby at home. But what did I say? I said, my babysitter could come every other week, so we'll do it every other week. If I can't do it every week, it doesn't mean I say, okay, I'll wait for my baby to go to school and then we could have another class. No, whatever I could do, instead of saying what I can't do, figure out what I could do. So not, where can I show up? Where can I do more? And it could be a smile. It doesn't have to be, huge earth-shattering stuff. But if you have an opportunity to show up, to help someone, and you say, I'm going to wait for perfect, that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to
think one step further, it's like the Satan. It's the opposite. It's like a saboteur.
Yeah.
That voice that's like, you need perfection, otherwise you fail.
What are other people going to think of me? How are they going to judge me? But if you could inspire or influence one person, it's your obligation. It's your obligation to do so. Push yourself a little bit further. Yeah, there are a lot of examples.
Starts with Hashem. He blew the neshama in us, and we have Hashem inside us, and we have to love ourselves so much because we're loving Hashem, because Hashem is inside. when we love ourselves, we're loving Hashem. So
Yes.
we're like so aligned with Hashem. And when we love ourselves, because Hashem is inside us, we have the capacity to love another and to do for others and to help others. And that's part of bringing Mashiach closer, is that we have to love ourselves and we have to love others. But we can't love others if we don't love ourselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't wait for perfection.
We are perfect. We are so perfect.
Exactly.
We are perfect because Hashem is inside us, not because I'm so perfect. It's because Hashem is inside us that makes us perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Like what you said last week, if we,
Yes.
Hashem is missing, we don't love, so he's missing something.
Right,
It's funny because
right.
I had an epiphany this week about like we're all chasing like healing and whatever, and I really believe that real healing is accepting how Hashem made you.
Wow.
We are healed.
Right, no, but it's really accept.
Exactly.
that
We don't have
Mr.
to change
Limitation,
healing. We
yes.
are healed because we are perfect.
Yeah.
We have to,
I'm listening to her talk. We have to love Hashem. I'm like, I read in theory, but like, when it comes to my everyday life, like, practical. I don't know about that.
so basically we have to be able to, we have to realize that we could be who we are. And we don't have to be someone else or to impress someone else. My daughter and son-in-law, Mir Tashem, they're moving from Crown Heights. They're moving to a new community. So my daughter's like, so I never really did this, but she's like, Ma, I want to go out and eat breakfast with you. So we went out yesterday and we were talking and she's like, I want to, like, moving to a new community, like, you one part of you could be like, okay, what's everyone going to think of me? So I have to like put up this show. And sometimes we say, sometimes we even put ourselves down because when someone offers to help, whatever, we put ourselves down. Oh, because we want to, we could even put ourselves down. I could never, like someone offers you, oh, you want me to come in and help you, arrange your house or set up, whatever it is, like, oh, please come. I could never do that. Like, I'm so bad at that. Sometimes we say I'm so bad at whatever it is because I don't even know where it comes from, because we don't want others to have expectations of us in that area, or I don't know, but we're not really, we don't want to come across as so high and mighty. We want to show that we're more humble. Whatever the calculations are, but we're not showing up as who we really are. We're trying to, the main focus is how is someone else going to view me versus I'm showing up to a new community. This is who I am. Like, it's okay to celebrate your talents. You don't have to put yourself down and say, oh, I'm not really so good at that, because you don't want anyone to think, whatever, but you could truly, this is what my daughter was saying. She says, my goal is that I should move to a new community and I should be me. I should be true to myself. These are my talents, and I could celebrate my talents in a new community. And I'm not a show off if I could do something, to truly, be yourself. And we each we're all, and when we tap into the infinity within us, because we all have an neshama, when we realize that God is the one that's giving us all of our talents and all of our capabilities, and we tap into that infinity, then we could really achieve. We could really achieve so much. Yesterday, my daughter was supposed to arrive from Texas. She was in camp for 6 weeks. So my husband drove the 2 hours to the airport. The flight's supposed to arrive at 6:30, and at 6:20, my husband gets a message that because of the rain, they're going to Pittsburgh. They're landing in Pittsburgh in 10 minutes.
No way.
Not in LaGuardia. So anyway, I don't even know what time they got home because I was sleeping already.
Okay.
But whatever. But the point is so bedtime and the whole everything else that comes with it was all on me. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, it's not fair. I need time to prepare for my class, and how is that going to happen? But I said to myself, I'm not getting nervous. Hashem is the one that's going to help. That Hashem is the one that made that flight, whatever. And Hashem is the one that's going to give me the strength and the knowledge to teach the class. So I'll put the kids to bed with a smile, and Hashem will help me understand the material in a shorter amount of time. But when we realize we're the kayach, we're the power is coming from, when we tap into the infinity, then yes, Hashem will give me the talent and the kayach to be able to understand the material, to be able to come and teach it, because it's not about me, it's about Hashem. It's Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. Hashem, help me help me understand this. I could teach it. When Hashem is part of the equation or is the equation, then we could surpass way, so much more than what we think we could achieve. It's the humility to understand where everything is coming from. And yes, I could be true to myself, and I could be true to my talents, and I could be true to Hashem. I could do what Hashem wants me to do, because Hashem created me this way with these talents, and I could do my mission because everything that I have is all given to me by Hashem. So when you tap into that, the more you tap into that, the more. Go ahead.
With Asila Farad, because this is a new concept, like what you just said, which I've been learning with you since 4.5 years ago. But I don't know if it's okay. It's probably not related to the Rebbe, but like giving over the power of people making decisions for you, or not halakhic things. Halacha is halacha. But I don't understand how that plays out with also having the knowledge that Hashem gave you the answers inside of you, and you're different. I don't know if I'm
100%.
my thought right, but
Okay, so to prove your thought, there's a story of the Rebbe that there was a rabbi in Maryland, and he had questions about. He had questions about what job to take in his life, what to do, and he called the Rebbe's office, and he wanted an audience with the Rebbe, whatever it is, and so he's speaking to the Rebbe's secretary, and the Rebbe was on the other line, and the secretary said, he didn't say his name. When he called, they said, who is it? He said, I'm a Jew from Maryland. He didn't say who his name. So he wanted an audience. The Rebbe picked up the phone, and the Rebbe said to the secretary, tell him that there's a Yid in Maryland by the name of Weinreb, and tell him to speak to Rabbi Weinreb. He'll give him advice. So the man said, but I'm Weinreb. So the Rebbe said, sometimes a person has to speak to himself. And he said that was the best advice. That was the best advice.
So I think that's when you speak with someone you advise, someone you look up to, they help you process yourself, but you find answers what they didn't answer you. They help you get to the conclusion. You bounce it off them, but they help you to get the conclusion. Somebody asks you what should I do, and then tell you. No, they help you find the answer within you. But sometimes it's hard to do it by yourself. So you speak with someone, it's not someone that you advise, someone, and they help you through the process. You find the answer. I don't give you the answer.
And there's also one more point.
God, people who do answer and tell you what to do, it's a big turnoff.
Why? Because you want to find it. Why? Because you want to get the answers from within you.
Right.
That's why.
You know what I'm saying, you know yourself best. But on the other hand, if you're speaking to someone, you're asking someone a question, right? So we're going to talk about this in Tanya. You have an animal soul and a godly soul. I have an animal soul and a godly soul. My animal soul only cares about me. Your animal soul only cares about you. Because what's the animal soul? The animal soul is the instinct, it's the drive to survive. So my animal soul only cares about me, my survival. But my godly soul cares about you. And your godly soul cares about me. So if we're going to sit down and have a discussion, right? and we're going to talk about my life or the decisions that I have to make. So it's one animal soul against two godly souls. So that will ensure, by speaking to someone else, it will ensure that the decision that I'm making, that it's coming from the godly soul, that the godly soul is sitting in the driver's seat versus the animal soul. Because sometimes the line is a little bit blurred.
Right.
Because we're going to learn in Tanya tomorrow that the animal soul is not just evil and black. The animal soul, that's why in the flyer, you'll see that it's half black and half white. I wanted a black and white cookie to represent the animal soul. The animal soul is not just black. There's white too. So sometimes it's confusing. Is it the white part of the animal soul or is it the godly soul? So if I have a second godly soul, then it will help ensure you talk it over with someone. It will help ensure that the decision is the right one. And sometimes just by articulating, it helps you just by speaking about it, or even writing. When you write or when you speak, then you get to deeper levels within yourself. It brings out deeper levels, and you're not just making decisions based on the surface. You're basing the decision based on something deeper. Okay, so
by the way, it's also the perfectionist thing. It's like I have all the answers. It'll come to me, But actually, like admitting that part of that is I'm not perfect, then other people know better.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also it doesn't have to be the same. I'm saying when it comes to halacha, you need one Rav for everything. But when it comes to other areas, if someone is a professional in marketing, then you go to that person to ask for advice.
Right.
So I actually went to my sister. I said, Rachali, what should I do? She said, Hani, make a poll on WhatsApp. It was her idea. So I'm saying you have to go to the right person. You have to go to the right person to in that area. Go to just like even with health issues. You go to a specialist if you need help in a certain area, go to the person that specializes in that area.
Right.
So the same thing is within our lives. If we have to make a decision, whatever the decision is, you could ask the advice of someone who specializes in that area, and their godly soul, together with your godly soul, together will help you. Will help you make the right decision. And the fact that Torah says "Aseh lecha Rav," so it empowers the Rav. If you just the fact that you're listening to Torah, when the person gives you the advice, where does that advice come from? That idea that popped into their head that they're recommending to you, that came in their head from God. So if you're saying, listen, I'm going to go ask another person, I'm going to ask their advice. And why am I asking their advice? Because I'm following what the Mishnah said, Aseh lecha Rav. Because I have the humility that I'm going to get someone else's input. Then the advice that the Rav will give you is a channel. The Rav is a channel to give you the advice that you need to hear. And the Rav also has to know that they're a channel.
I guess I'm gonna give an example of what happened to me.
Go ahead.
People's advices. Before I was getting married, my family was against me becoming religious. It was like crazy. My father was sick with cancer. My mom was calling me, giving me very hard time. You should not get married. You should not get married. You should wait. You should wait until whatever. And I called the Rav. And actually, Rabbi Chaim, you probably know him.
Yes.
And I asked him, what should I do? Should I be with my family, be with my parents, or should I do what I think is right? And he said, they want to postpone your wedding because your father is sick, or because they just don't want that. And that was the answer.
Wow.
And we got married.
Wow.
And my family was not there. And my mashpia, she's like, give me your phone. That's it. No more phone for the wedding. And
when we have the backing of Torah,
yeah.
when we have the backing of Torah, when we have the backing of Torah, then we're assured that we're doing the right thing.
But it also like the first thing, you should respect your parents, and that was like my parents. It was very disrespectful what I did. I just did what I wanted to do.
But it wasn't just what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a personal.
They did not understand that we
Yeah.
can't just date and wait for years for them to accept him. It just doesn't work like that.
But sometimes even accepting the Yad Hashem, you feel guilty about it. It was Tzad Hashem Takum, but I'm dealing now, like a few months ago, I was working with a real estate guy, and then I said, forget it, it's not happening. And all of a sudden, a different real estate pop up, and she find me something that I can do it. So I called the guy to apologize, I'm not going with him, but I'm going to purchase something probably. And I feel guilty. I feel guilty about it. So even so I know it's from Hashem, the way he runs the world, that's what the parnasa is supposed to go to this person, not. But how you deal with the guilt part of understanding that you should.
So you need to have full
I
trust.
did
So
not feel
your
any
trust
guilt.
is
I
not
was just
full.
like you, I told
What?
God.
You need
Yeah.
to have a full trust. If you go with a
You have
wall,
such
you
clarity,
get thought
so there's no
from
big
God,
feeling. You know
then you
Yeah.
need to continue to stick to that.
Amazing.
With no
Therefore,
guilt.
it turned around good. It
Yeah.
came around the
Yeah,
way.
thank God, but.
Yes.
Oh,
it was-
Also
It's
in
very hard for this to become.
yeah, also in Tanya it speaks about guilt. Guilt is, guilt is not coming from the right place.
No.
Yeah, it's to hold us back.
Well, it's a Yiddish word. It's a very odd
Yes.
Yiddish.
If we're busy feeling guilty, then we can't do stuff.
Right.
You know?
Too fast,
So-
swallowing the.
Yeah.
You would never feel 100%, right?
yeah, no, I just feel bad. But
You need to
when you
accept
say,
it.
I give you the time, I went with you, whatever, I said. That's why I'm calling to apologize and say, I'm sorry, but it's not going to go for you.
Yeah.
And you have your reasons, right?
Yeah. Okay, so just to end off, which is also, we did mention this before, that but what's the lesson for us today? I basically said it already, but just to repeat that there's so there's yes, keep moving, but we want the coming of Mashiach immediately. So not only there's quantity and quality. So not only are we asking that in quantity, the time for us to merit the coming of Mashiach should be immediate, that it should be very, very quickly, that we should that we're asking Hashem to hasten the arrival of Mashiach, that should be very, very quickly. But not only that, but also in quality. How should we experience the redemption, that it should be in a way that our nations recognize that the land is ours, and they shouldn't object to us being in the land, and we shouldn't have to have no war and no weapons. We should be able to just and how is it the more we're in touch with who we are, with our holiness, with our Jewish identity, with our Jewish pride, the less objection and ammunition and war is necessary. Yeah. We should all merit to have the coming Mashiach immediately, and we should all be in Eretz Yisrael and have the Beis Hamikdash and have Hashem dwelling amongst us. That's all we want. But now when you go back and you read this Rashi, it's the Pasuk Vav, and you're going to read the Rashi. I'll read it again, just for you to reflect on how much we've learned today. Rashi, at the beginning of the page, Rav Lachem Sheves, which is the Hipshutai. The simple interpretation is, it's too much for you. It's enough for you to sit around the mountain. Yesh Mikra Acher, and the Medrash comes and says, Here Balachem Gedula V'Schar. Hashem gave you greatness, and Hashem gave you reward. Greatness is that Hashem gave us the tools to be great, that we can know our identity. So we should be able to receive the reward of going into the land in an easy way, without war, without weapons. It's because we sat around this mountain, and because we developed ourselves through having through Asisa Mishkan, through making a Mishkan, and I forgot to say this, Menorah is singled out. Why? Because the Menorah, that is the proof for all the nations of the world that Hashem is dwelling amongst us. The menorah was that light. And that's why the Rashi singles out the menorah, because from the Mishkan, the light of the menorah radiated from the Mishkan, from the Beis Hamikdash to all the nations, to the whole world. And we are the light. We are the light. We're ambassadors of God, and we're a light unto the nations. And that's where the menorah is singled out in Rashi and not in Sifri. That's good that we went back to this. So through building a Mishkan and through being a light, and specifically through the menorah, which proves that Hashem rests among us, because you could just have a tabernacle, you could have, no one knows about it, but when the light is emanating from it and everyone sees the light, then it proves that Hashem is resting amongst us. And number two, when we receive the Torah and we accept the Torah into our daily life, and we're going to make changes in our life. And Minisim Lahem Sanhedrin, we appoint rabbis and leaders over us. Sorry, Alafim and Sari Meis. Oh, and why does it say only Sari Alafim and Sari Meis, only leaders of thousands and leaders of hundreds, and not leaders of 50 and leaders of 10? Because the leaders of 50 and leaders of 10, that only applied in the desert. When they were traveling, because they were traveling, it was more difficult for them to, so it was more difficult for them to ask their questions or to find people to answer their questions. So they needed more people to ask. But once they were already settled in the land of Israel, then the leaders of 10 and leaders of 50 weren't necessary anymore. Therefore, Rashi does not mention it, because everything that Rashi mentions is all about, is only things that pertain to the land of Israel, to being holy and prepared for the land of Israel. Therefore, Rashi omits the 10 and the 50. So I'm so glad that we went back to the Rashi, so we got everything in.
In the Mishkan, what
Yeah.
are the three things that are lists? The Mishkan, the menorah, and
When the three things are Mishkan, receiving the Torah, and appointing judges. But within Mishkan, only Rashi highlights menorah.
and what? Oh, so
They both Rashi and both Sifri both say the Mishkan and its vessels. But Rashi says the Mishkan, the menorah, and its vessels. Only Rashi highlights the menorah, not any other of the vessels, because the menorah is what proves that God rests among us, and and this light of that we have to be like the light of the nations. Therefore, Rashi does mention the menorah, while Sifri does not. Okay, so thank you all for coming. And what is it? Yes, thank you, Kara, for hosting us. And the next class will be in Yerushalayim. Okay.
Where did you?